Well, India's manufacturing sector is growing rapidly, but that growth is creating an unexpected problem. Well, the country is importing even more goods needed to make products at home. Well, India's merchandise trade deficit, or the gap between what it imports and exports, widened at nearly $32 billion in 2026 of July only. Now, that's a 6-month high. Goods imports rose 18% from a year earlier to $76.2 billion, while exports increased 20% to $44.2 billion. Importantly, oil was not the main reason for the wider deficit. India's oil imports actually fell to $18.3 billion in July from $19.3 billion in June. Instead, the increase came largely from machinery, electronics, and other equipment needed to expand factories. This creates what looks like a contradiction. India is exporting more manufactured products, but it is also importing more of the machines, chips, and components required to make them. Now, the reason is simple. Building a factory requires large investments before the factory can start producing at full capacity. Companies first buy machinery, electronic components, and semiconductors from overseas. Those imports immediately show up in the trade data, while the benefits from higher production and exports take longer to appear. The bigger challenge is that India still relies heavily on imported inputs. A smartphone or electronic product may be assembled in India and exported overseas, but many of its key components still come from other countries. Well, that means rising exports do not automatically translate into a stronger trade balance. Well, for India, the long-term goal is therefore not just to assemble more products, but to produce more of their components domestically. Experts say if today's imported machinery helped build strong local support and supply chains, well, the current trade deficit could eventually support a more competitive manufacturing economy. But if India remains dependent on imported chips, machinery, and components, well, the country could continue exporting more while also importing more.